yeah. Chasing thoughts I can't recall. Quest to find just what I need. All I have is on my shoulders. It's getting clearer, yeah. It's getting clearer, yeah. It's getting clearer, yeah. It's getting clearer, yeah. Let's play pretend, babe. I promise I won't cheat you. This moment lasts forever. Let's give our love a redo. Let's play pretend, babe. I promise I won't cheat you. This moment lasts forever. Let's give our love a redo.
My life would be so shitty without you. Wow. Sweet.
Moving slowly, yeah. A cherry rolling, I'm all alone. You're my one and only, babe.
We are live. Okay, good. All right, and we are live with Miss Tiara. Okay.
Hello.
Thank you for being here today, coming on. Had a little technical difficulties, but I think
Yes.
we got it sorted out, hopefully. So today what we're going to do is just kind of go through a little bit and just hear Tiara's story. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, how old she is, where she's from, and what school she's currently attending for PT school, and just tell us rather, her journey on how she, how she got there, and where she is right now in her journey. Okay. So without further ado, I will let her introduce herself and take it away. All right, go ahead, Tiara.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I am Tiara Cates. I'm about to be 28 years old in a month exactly, actually. My birthday is February 27th, so a month away. I am Chicago native, and I go to Governor State University in University Park, Illinois. So that's where I'm at right now for PT school.
Okay, good. And what kind of made you want to get into this profession initially? Is it something that you knew about? Because there are people that, I've interviewed
Still don't know.
on this channel, and they didn't really know too much about PT. So what made you want to get into this profession?
So I was introduced to physical therapy at about like 10 because my best friend's sister has cerebral palsy. So that's how I was introduced to it. Her parents have a private therapy room in their basement because she's quadriplegic, which means that she can't walk and she doesn't have control of her legs nor her upper body. And she also cannot talk. So she has home health and they come to her house and do therapy with her at her house. So that was my introduction to physical therapy. And for a long time, I thought that was what it was until I got to high school. And then I realized that it was many parts of it. And, it had subsets of sports and the hospital and home health and everything like that. So from there, I was kind of set and I just based everything around college and everything being through following college to see that through and make my way to PT school.
Okay, good. And just tell me a little bit about, because I know, we were talking a little bit off air about your story and, the progression through school. What was one of the more challenging parts about this journey for you, either before you got into school or when you got into school? What would you say some of the more challenging parts of the journey were?
Well, I can say I had two parts that was really challenging. First, just getting in is a challenge in itself. So, um, being a part of the application cycle more than once and the repetitiveness of being denied and not getting in right away, that is any can deter anybody. So, being able to pick yourself up from that and reapply and keep going is one challenge that I think lots of people face, especially people of minority. And then once I got into school, my current school is not my first school. So I was in PT school. I started in 2018. So my first year was 2018, 2019. And I am no longer at that school. And I started over at a new school um, actually in 2020, but COVID happened. So I took a sabbatical because it was COVID, it was quarantine, and that was not my plan for starting school again. So I waited, and even though we're still in the pandemic, I started back this past May. So I'm still a first year, even though I have a first year's knowledge full of physical therapy already.
Okay. So you said that you started back this past year. So you started this past May.
Yeah, this past May, 2021.
And someone's saying that there's background noise. Thanks, Marty. I appreciate that, man. Okay.
Hi, Marty.
So he's in the comment section. All right.
Of
There
course
we
he
go.
is.
There we go. There we go. Okay. So let's try this. Hopefully this sounds a little bit better. Okay. So 2020. So you started off in 2018. You were at Wayne
Hmm.
State, I would imagine. And then it's funny because I
Yes.
started the same year. So I started at Hampton University,
Oh,
2018.
really?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
there. Got through about a whole year, then I left. So you now are coming back in 2020, and then you took some time. So you started technically 2021.
Yeah. So I just started this past May 2021. I started with the 2020 cohort, but I did not like the online and just the uncertainty of what was going on. And it was COVID, it was quarantine. A lot was going on with family because of quarantine and COVID. So I decided that being that I had already experienced hiccups with school, I would just wait and I decided to start back 2021. So I voluntarily put myself a year back and started in 21 instead of with the cohort that I was accepted with of 2020.
Oh,
Well, to start in 2020.
gotcha, gotcha. Okay. So now, what to tell me a little bit? What's the difference that you would say? Because I experienced the same thing when I went to my second school, right? So I was at Hampton, left,
Hmm.
and then I went to University of St. Augustine. Everything was online. That was a very, very challenging time. I ended up leaving there.
Yeah.
Now I'm in Michigan at Andrews University. But
Okay.
when I was at University of St. Augustine, I really understand what you were saying because we didn't have any in-class classes, right? What
Right.
about that did you find that you didn't really want to necessarily deal with? Was it the having to motivate yourself, or are you a person that just learns better in a classroom setting?
I definitely learned better in a classroom setting. Also, just being locked down in the house and not being able to leave and trying to accommodate the fact that my entire family was in the house while I was trying to have class and learn was very hard. I didn't meet any of my original classmates. We all met each other on Zoom or Ultra or whatever you guys use. That's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
And the just the learning environment was so weird because you just had to get on the computer. Half the people had their screens off. um, you didn't really interact unless you were being asked a question. And just from already experiencing PT school, I was like, this is not it. This is not what I want to do. So I know that this is not going to end well. So I told my program chair at the time, like, me being a second chance student, I don't want to do this. This is not what I signed up for, but I still want to be in the program. I don't know where we will be next year, but I know that it can't be where we are right now. So she was like, I understand. And we worked out a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I kept the grades that I had from a few of my classes, so I didn't have to do all the work over. But I just was like, I'd rather start fresh and be in school. But then, funny enough, when we started in May, we technically had to still be online for that one semester. So the summer semester we were online, but this semester and last semester we were back in the classroom, which I'd much rather be back in the classroom.
Okay. So they essentially basically kind of held your spot for you until you kind of came back.
Came back.
Oh
Yep.
wow. That is very convenient. That's nice. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't happen often. But yeah, they held my spot. So I was one of the counted students for the cohort that started May of 21. So they already knew that it was one extra person that they weren't picking because I was in that class.
Okay. And how large of a class do you currently have?
It's 30, 31 of us. We just recently lost someone. He said that it wasn't what he thought it was going to be, and he needed to make different changes for him and his family, which completely understandable. And then we lost someone earlier on in the summer semester because of the same thing, personal issues. And at that time, we were online, so I think she was not able to acclimate herself to that. So hopefully, we don't lose anybody else because I really like my cohort.
Right.
So I hope the 31 of us stay.
Stay. Yeah. Yeah, it's always one of those interesting things when, you see these people, you know how hard it is to get into PT school, even for me
Hmm.
having to do this, cycle again and again. And then, you know how much money it costs even to apply to the school, how much it is to take out
Yes.
loans for the school. And then, you see people because, in my cohort, we've also lost one, two, yeah, we've already lost two as well, so
Hmm.
and we lost them our first semester. So it is one of those things where it's almost like in me experiencing it, me leaving PT school two classes twice. I know that feeling, and that was part of the reason why I
Yeah.
really wanted to kind of start this channel so I can give people information about how it is like, so people are not one spending all this money. Two, as a minority, you got to realize um, some of the classes that you're going to be in, if you're not used to interacting with certain people, you have to make that adjustment on top of school. It's not just purely
Yeah.
school.
It's not just the classwork. Yeah, it's not just didactics.
Yeah,
These people you see more than your friends and family. So
yeah, yeah. So speak about that a
it's an
little bit. I
adjustment.
mean, what kind of culture did you grow up around, and how was that with transitioning to the class and the PT class you are in today?
So, like I said, I'm from Chicago. So, although I'm from the South Side, I had a very diverse upbringing. In elementary school or grammar school, I don't know which one you use because I learned while being in grad school that people use different ones. But in grammar school, I was originally one of the very few African American students in my school from fourth grade for me, but my brothers, kindergarten all the way to eighth grade. And by the time I graduated, it was more and more of us in the area and in the school overall. But I ended up going to a predominantly Black high school. And then I went to HBCU for
Okay.
undergrad. Shout out to those Alabama Bulldogs, Alabama
You
A&M.
went to Alabama
And
A&M?
then I did. I was right down the street.
What?
Yeah.
I was at Oakwood University. That's crazy.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that. So I was down the street from you. I have a lot of friends that went there as
Okay.
well, and most of them were pre PT, so that's how I know them. But I went there, and then I went to a private school for my master's in Atlanta, which was again where I was a minority. And I also did a few summer enrichment programs. So I was at UAB, and Birmingham, the dynamic, unless you're in the city parts of Birmingham in terms of being at the university. It's a big medical center full of a lot of people, but the number of us that were there was slight. So I used the connections and the experiences that I had there, but I'm used to being in different types of settings. So I wasn't really overwhelmed by that. I can say for my first experience for PT school, I think the overwhelmingness that came with it was the culture and the energy of the class, the cohort itself.
Okay.
I think that's what was one of the hardest parts for me, and not just the cohort, but um, even up to higher to faculty and other parts of it. So it was different because although I had been in situations where I was one of few, I had never been made to feel like I was one of few. So that part was kind of hard to deal with.
Right, right. No, understandable, understandable. So when you left your first program, right? How much of it, and I have to
Hmm.
ask because I know how I felt, you know, going into Hampton, I was a little bit apprehensive. And then, I think once I got there, I felt like I had a little chip on my shoulder. I felt like there was something to prove in a sense, right? It was never
Yeah.
one of those feels for me working. I've never been really excited crazily about working for anybody else for anything in any field, right? But I realized,
Hmm.
if I am going to start off and, take the path of academia and do the 9 to 5 initially until I had, more access to the resources and the connections to do what I actually and ultimately want to do. I knew that I wanted to do something where it didn't stick me, in a desk job. How much of that, when you came back was just listen, I started something I need to finish, or like I really have a passion for what it is that I'm learning and I'm doing?
I feel like it was 50-50. So, like I said, from probably my junior year of high school, my mind was set that I'll even say my sophomore year of high school, my mind was set that I was going to go to school for physical therapy because
Mm.
originally I wanted to be an interior designer, and my mom told me no. She was like, "Go find something else. You can do that on your own. You don't need me to pay for you millions of dollars for you to go to school for you to decorate. You can do that and use your connection. So figure out some different." So I was like, okay, I figured out that I liked PT. And like I said, I set myself up where everything I did was acclimated to me getting to this part of the journey and checking that box. It's definitely passion driven though, because after going through what I went through at the first school, if it was not passion, I would not have reapplied. I would not have come back. And I definitely had to deal with myself prior to reapplying and coming back. So what I did was after I left the first program, I went on a mission trip that summer. So we finished Marty as well. We finished our first year summer of 2019, June. And in July, I went on a 2.5 week mission trip to Costa Rica where I was working in underserved clinics and helping with the therapists there. And I did it alongside some medical students and some nursing students. And that just let me know, like, okay, this was hard. This didn't go how I expected it to go at all. But this is still it. This is still what I want to do, despite the rough been presented. And I just was like, we're gonna go home, we're gonna map out a game plan, and we're gonna figure out what we're doing because by the time of the end of 2019, I told myself I was gonna be back in a cohort. And that's what I did. So I didn't even have a gap really. I left in June 19 and I got an acceptance letter in December of 19. And that was me proving to myself that the things that transpired at the first school were not valid because I had to tell them everything that I had to give transcripts. I had to be very transparent. And even in that setting of time, we were still doing in-person interviews. So the cohort that I'm in, they didn't have in-person interviews. I did. So I got to sit in front of my now professors and explain why I was no longer at the school that I was at the first time. And again, you have to prepare yourself to revisit those feelings and really take apart the experience. And I had to be able to articulate the whys to why I was no longer there because, any PT school, unless you're just like a shoe in of theirs where they just feel like there's really no way you won't be successful, it's a gamble for every student that they pick because they want you to succeed and they don't want anyone leaving their program because it doesn't look good for them. So again, being a second chance student, it was more so letting them know like I'm pick over people who haven't been in the program at all. And these are the reasons why. So I got picked over a lot of people. And then once I didn't want to be there with the original cohort, they still let me stay, come back. So that says a lot to me. And I think my dedication to it says a lot to them. So
Right. So with that pressure that you were feeling, well, I guess let me not assume that you were feeling pressure, but I would assume you are. But let me not do that. Let me ask you, what would you say you felt more pressure initially applying and getting in and going to the first school that you went to, and then of course progressing through that program, or do you feel like you had more of, I guess, a chip on your shoulder, more pressure going into the second time, Or, is it because you already, experienced PT school, it wasn't as much of a, I guess, a scary, one of those, scary things because you had already experienced it? Or, the first time was it worse?
I feel like I didn't really have pressure with the first time. I was more anxious about just finally getting started. I think the most pressure and anxiety came from the application process the first time around.
Hmm.
And in a sense, maybe in that same setting in the second time, it was more the application process because, like I said, I had to convey the fact that I had already been accepted to a school and was no longer there. And for a lot of schools, it was like, well, why? Like,
Hmm.
what happened? And having to write essays about that and explain that in interviews, it's a little daunting because you don't want to keep doing the same thing. You want to move forward. But to get back into the groove of things, I had to repetitively keep doing the same thing. So I think that was the more anxiety driven aspect of it. But once I got accepted and I had my interview, I was like, oh, well, I know I'm going to get an acceptance from here. I knew that leaving my interview that I was going to get it accepted,
Really?
even though, of course, they didn't tell me, or anything like that, but I just felt it, you know, a lot of people came out anxious and
Uh,
like, how did it go? And I was like, yeah, I was fine. And I left and I went home and I went about my day. And then about a week later, I got a call and I got an email and I was accepted. So I was like, okay, great. But when we actually started school, I was not nervous. A lot of my classmates were nervous and they were very anxious. And I was just like, look, this is not that bad. This is maybe the slightest part of all of it. So just take a chill pill and breathe because it gets worse. It gets
right.
worse before it gets better. So this part is not even the gist of what it will be. So don't stress yourself out too much on the front end of it. But I really haven't my all of my professors know that this is my second program, but most of my classmates don't know because my professors thought it would be better to let them just find out on their own if they ever did, because there wasn't really anything to make a talking point. So
Oh, so you don't even really tell them.
no, now if someone asks me, I'll convey that, but the only people that know are all of my professors. They all know, but
Okay.
not so when they see this, they'll know. But yeah, no,
Now, do you have
I don't talk
any
about it that much.
specific, I guess, any specific reason for that, or is just you don't really feel the need to?
I never really felt the need for me to really talk about it that
Right.
much unless it was people who I already knew. Because for one, as you know, I'm very close to Marty, and I don't want to ever shame or put a dim light on the people that were in my cohort
Right.
originally
Right. Right.
because they had to get through the same thing that I'm getting through and they earned their degree and I don't want, to put any throw any salt or any stones. So I try not to really speak too much on it because that was my experience. It's not everyone's experience. So I don't want to jade people's opinion of the university or the program.
Right.
So that's why I try to steer away from talking about it too much because I do have jaded feelings. So I keep them to myself.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's very understandable. So when you said, and I heard you said, once you left, of course, getting back in, you had to sit down and kind of make a plan. How did that look for
Hmm.
you? Did you actually physically write down something, or was it just like, okay, I
Oh,
need to
yes.
get this together, and you kind of made the mental notes and then proceeded?
No, I knew that I had basically everything I needed to apply. It was because, doing PT cast already, I already knew what to expect.
Right.
It was more so me putting myself in the mental state to do it again because I'm like, I already did this.
All
Like,
right.
so not wanting to do that again because I'm like, I already wrote these essays. I already said this and that. I don't want to do that part. So I had to get myself together mentally and emotionally to do that. Um, so what I did was I would make myself go and hash out the ins and outs of the experience I had just went through months prior because the portal opens in July. So for me to get an acceptance by the end of the year that year, I had to start that same portal in that same year. So I hadn't even really closed that door all the way before I jumped in and decided I was going to go back and apply again because I felt like if I stepped away too long, I was going to talk myself out of it. So I would go to the library. I would go through the schools that I was now interested in because I decided I didn't want to go away anymore. I had done that 3 times. So I was like, I don't want to go away. I want to be at home. So I applied to all in-state schools and I did my research thoroughly on all of them because I was like, okay, we've already had an experience. If there is even an inkling of what we already went through at any of these universities, is no point of us wasting our time applying. So I scratched a lot of schools off my list before I even got through the supplemental part on PTcast. Like I went to visit a couple of them, got a tour. If I didn't like the energy, I didn't finish the application.
Mm.
I just left it.
Okay.
So I only turned in a few of them,
So how many did you end up applying to in total?
3 or 4.
Oh,
I can't remember,
okay.
but yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah. Out of all the schools in the state, I only applied to 3 or 4 of them because I had a list, and then I would, like I said, I would get on Instagram and I would go find people that went there and I would ask them questions and
All right.
again like convey to them, yeah, I already went to PG school. I know a lot.
Mhm.
How's your experience? Because I wanted to know what it was like, not on the forefront on the website or anything. I wanted to know like what was the real time experience of the students. And if I didn't like it, I wasn't going.
You weren't going.
So,
Oh, wow. So
and I wasn't wasting my money.
I got you. So with that small, I guess, small amount of schools, because for me, I think I maybe had a different approach. I definitely had criteria that I lined out, but for me, it was like I have to get in so bad that I am gonna. And my GPA wasn't all that high. I had a 3.1 or something like that with PT Cast from undergrad. But I was like, listen, I am getting in, and I need to get in just one place. And I applied to I applied to 20 schools, from California,
Ooh,
you know, all the way to Florida. And that's why I got into St. Augustine and I started in January, but I was still getting accepted into a couple schools when I had already finished the first semester. That's why once I finished the first semester at St. Augustine, I was able to just be like, yeah, this is not it. This is an accelerated program and we're doing it all from home. We're teaching ourselves half of the information. For me, the extra 4 months that I'm going to finish early is not worth
it's
the
not worth it.
stress,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
People giving up their gym memberships, having to quit doing like just extracurricular stuff because you spend so much time studying. And I would track my studying. So for me, just to get all B's and a C plus in pathophysiology the first semester, I was
I
studying
hate that
30 to
class.
32 hours a week, because I tracked it with an app, so for me, I said, this is just not worth it for me. Right. But I had applied to those 20 schools. So Andrews, they had accepted me. And then I ended up calling them back and saying, hey, listen, do you guys still have a spot? Long story short, was able to kind of get a spot back in. But with you applying to those 3 schools, I mean, if you had not gotten into one of those, would you have thrown out some more applications, tried again the next year, or just said, you know what, maybe this is, not.
I honestly cannot tell you what I would have done
Oh,
if I did not get accepted. I probably would have reapplied
okay.
more than likely, knowing me.
Okay.
But I also am a personal trainer, and I had a full roster of clients at the time, so
Oh.
I wasn't a sitting duck. So that was one thing that kept me busy and kept a lot of my knowledge
Mm-hmm.
from my first year because and then my master's is in sports health
Okay.
science, and my concentration was sports injury management. So I already had a lot of, you know, understanding
Right.
and information from a year and a half of grad school and a master's and a full year in PT school, and then applying that and making that a part of the way that I worked with my clients, which is why I was able to come home in the summer and then rebuild my entire clientele because I hadn't been home, like actually living at home since I was 18 years old. I left when I went to undergrad and I did not come back.
Mm.
But I was able to pick up and build a full roster of clients in less than a year's time. That was pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So that's why I could say I actually probably would have reapplied because I knew that I had the knowledge
Got you.
and I knew that I knew what I knew. So
Got you. Yeah. And talk to me because I know right before we got on this live stream, you did say that you were finishing up with some clients. talk to me just a little bit about, how you built and how you went about building, that clientele. I would assume that it's probably some online, mostly online, or is it 50
Yeah.
50 or
So now it's majority
okay.
online, unfortunately, because I am in school.
Yes, yes, yes.
So prior to me starting classes again, I was 100% in the gym from as early as 4:45 in the morning to as late as 7:30 at
Oh
night.
wow.
And I kept going until I moved because my boyfriend and I
Uh-huh.
moved, and so classes started, and I told them that I would train as long as I could.
Okay.
So as long as it wasn't spreading myself too thin, I would train them because though that's your baby, like that's what you've invested yourself in. So my clients were my babies, and I wanted to see them through that. I didn't want to just drop the ball on
Hmm.
them, and I wanted to get them to a place of independence because when most people start, just like with PT, when you start, you're apprehensive, you don't know what to expect.
Right.
So I wanted them to be independent and comfortable with continuing on their journey without me being physically present.
Right.
So that was one of my main goals because I always tell them if you can only do all of this when I'm right here with you, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do because it's supposed to get you to a point of independence. Even if you have to come back, check in, learn through new things, need me to give you some pointers to make it more difficult and advance you, you
Hmm.
should know the basics by now. And the majority of them, they have stuck with it, but then some of them it was more just accountability,
Right.
so some of them
Right.
have fell off,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I was able to merge it though.
Okay, that's good. And did you do your? Because for me, I went through when I was studying for my personal training. I that was one of the things I did when I left, just to kind of, because I knew they were going to ask, what did you do on this time off? As
Hmm.
you were gone, right? So one of the things I did is I went and got the NASM. Did you go through NASM, AAS, ACE, or where did you do yours, or did you just build?
No, so I got mine is NAFC,
Okay, okay,
and I got that one. It's an online one because when I was in grad school, I was gonna get NASM, and my professors and my mentor at the time, they were like, honestly, you don't need to go and invest in this expensive
yeah,
certification when everything that you're being taught in your certification, you're being taught in class where you're paying double the money.
hmm,
So they were like, just get something where it says that you're certified because that's what you need,
right,
but you already have all this information.
right,
So there's no need for you to go relearn what you already know.
okay,
So that's how I did that because I had an apprenticeship with the gym while I was finishing my master's.
gotcha.
So
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So last couple questions. And this is a little bit. This is just general, right? What
mhm.
drives? What would you say drives? And when I say drives, I mean motivation. It comes and goes. People feel motivated at times, especially if it's
Yeah.
something that they have a passion for. So I know there are certain
Hmm.
people who are really passionate about rehab. So they're motivated to study. They're motivated to do the things that they need to do in order to, get through this process. But I
Hmm.
believe being driven is just a little different in that. You're not always going to feel like doing certain things, right? What
Right.
drives you? Even when you don't feel like studying or you don't feel like training people, what drives you? Is it a personality thing, or is it something that is more intrinsic, or extrinsic? Excuse me.
I'll say it's intrinsic and it's extrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being, I'm just a go-getter type person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the oldest. I have 10 siblings. I'm the
You
first
said
person to
10?
go to college. Yeah, I'm the oldest of 10
Oh,
people.
okay.
So, yeah, not all by one
Well, yeah, I would
person, but
imagine. Right, right,
collectively, I have 10
right.
siblings.
Okay.
And, well, nine, I'm number 10. But needless to say, I'm the first to go to college. I'm the first to pursue a higher degree following my undergraduate degree. And I just felt like I needed to set stepping stones for them, even if they didn't want to go to college or follow directly what I did. I wanted them to know that if you seek something out and you put down the stones and implement the time towards what you need to do, you can get it done. That doesn't mean you won't have any setbacks or the exact plan that you thought you were going to take to get where you're trying to get isn't going to alter or change,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to have the grit to get through it and the tenacity because life is going to happen every time. And I feel like I've kept that promise to myself to continue to be an example for them. So that's one of my ongoing motivators. Then just beforehand and after fully being endowed in PT school, I knew it before I got in, but I knew it even more after being in the program. There is a need for more of us. And once you see that it's not just in the clinic, it's in academics as well, because it starts in the classroom and then goes out into the clinic because you're in the classroom first. If things aren't being corrected in the classroom, they're not going to be corrected once you go outside and are already in the realm of practice.
Mm.
So, and this is something me and Marty were both discussing even while we were in class our first year. We noticed that, no one comes to PT school like, I want to be a professor too. Like, I want to teach and I want to be connected to the academic realm once I get my license and I can practice. Like, you want to go to school, you want to finish, and you want to go to the clinic.
Right,
That's
right.
that's usually everybody's take.
Hmm.
But the longer we were there and the more things that we saw and that transpired, we were like, this wasn't what I planned, but I can see myself in some facet working in academics because it's a need. It's not just that I want to do it because I want to, I never want to be disconnected from the classroom, but it's a need. And it's like the percentage of how many of us get in, stay in, and are successful once we start practicing isn't going to change unless there's more of us at the introduction, which is getting accepted, having us in the interview process, having us in the classroom.
Right.
All of that plays a toll on how you perform once you become the practicing therapist. So I feel like that's something that's definitely driving me now when I don't feel like studying and doing stuff. It's like it's higher, it's more than just you being able to work with patients and cure patients, because I do that now. I work in the hospital too in patient rehab. So
Right. Wow. That's awesome. So, with your other siblings, I know they may or may not decide to attend college, or maybe they do. But how much of an influence would you say that you've had on them to just do something more? Because I always find it interesting where you will have you know, people in a situation, and maybe their surroundings um, maybe don't favor certain things, right?
mhm.
However, some it's like some spawn. I don't know if it's like a personality thing. I don't know if it's a decision. I would imagine it's both, right? But there's something that spawns in them to where they're able to just go and then just make something for themselves in this earth. How much of that, do you think that has potentially rubbed off on some of your siblings that are following behind you?
It's a lot of us, so
Okay.
I can say 50-50. I've had a few of them actually express to me that I am one of their constant and biggest motivators. And these are not things that they say frequently. So when they do say it, it kind of catches me off guard. But it'll be moments when they'll be like, watching you pick it up, go at it again, go harder, and continue to go after what you're passionate about, what you're driven about, and what makes you happy. Lets me know that when I do discover what that is for
Hmm.
me, I can do it as well. Um, Again, I tell them like my path isn't your path. Like you don't have to do what I did. Um, you have to figure out what works for you, but it's all about knowing what works for you and then making it work for you, and not being a victim of environment or situations, because again, a lot of us don't come from, riches and royalty or anything like that. You have to start from scratch and build that. So, um, letting them know like there isn't an indicator that is tailored to your past that says that you can or cannot do whatever it is that you want to do. It might not be as easy as someone who has a little more resources and can get to the goal faster because of that, but um, it's not in a place where it's not attainable or it's not reachable. You just have to figure out how to get there and what you need to do so that you can do that.
Okay, sweet. So, this will be the last question I guess I will ask you. Let's just say there's someone out there that is really wanting to do something, I guess, big, and they don't have the confidence, or maybe they don't have that example. I know you've been an example to your siblings, right? But not everybody has that
Hmm.
example. Of course, we have the internet, right? So people can always see
Of course.
something. But let's just imagine that they're watching this interview right now. All right. What
Hmm.
is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody? Um, let's say someone who is in both of our positions, in PT school, for whatever reason had to leave, you know, or not as specific, just general information that you would give to someone who is just struggling right now to find that, and maybe they don't have those nine siblings looking up to them. Maybe they don't have that go-getter type personality that you described. And I know this might be a hard question to answer because you do have those things, right? But what advice would you give? What advice would you give that person?
I would say to them that some of the greatest and most impactful people haven't had a direct influence or someone that was looking up to them, looking after them. They just had to really look deep into self because, you think about the Oprahs and the Serena Williams and the Obamas and the Michelles, and they all have different stories and they all have different, upbringings of how they got to where they are. The Williams sisters, they had that family dynamic to get them where they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go, and that was tailored for
Right,
them.
right.
But then you have Oprah who did not, and that was solely. I don't want to say self-driven because I don't really feel like anybody's self-made. You At some point someone
Yeah,
helped you. You
exactly.
can't do everything
Right,
by
right.
yourself. But like you said, we do have resources now. You can outsource help. You can
Mm.
outsource mentorship. You can outsource, those relationships. And one thing I've been big on is making my social media open where those coming after me can ask me questions, ask me for help. And if I know the answer, I will 100% lead you to where a better resource to getting you that answer is, because I don't have to be the person to give you the answer to be impactful and to help
All
you.
right.
But just understanding that one, energy is contagious. So if you have the mindset that you can't do it, then you can't, because you have that's where it starts with yourself. And you no matter how many times another person tells you you can do something, if you don't have that I can do it, then it doesn't matter, because we can't do it for you.
Mm.
So first you have to put that in self, that this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, and now I got to figure out how I'm going to do it, because like you said, you might not have the how, but you have the why. And the why is from within, or for whatever reason that you decide you want to do something, and it starts there. And then if you keep the why, anytime anything else happens or transpires, you'll be able to reroute and redirect what it is that you're doing to get back to the why.
Wow.
And that's really what happened with me, getting back to the why.
That's good. That's good. That's amazing. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Well, um, Tiara, this has been definitely a great chat. I picked up, and I always like doing these conversations on here because, I mean, yeah, it's about PT school. I'm very familiar with the application process,
Yeah.
so that stuff is pretty familiar to me, but I'm always interested in hearing different people's perspectives on what it really just takes, because whether you're in PT school or you're just trying to pursue something outside, anything that is going to bring you a good level of success, it's going to take a level of consistency, grit, and then also you
Hmm.
said that why, because I will definitely tell you, moving out here to Michigan from Alabama, growing up there 20 something years of my
Is a
life,
difference.
it's a difference, man. I wake up, I mean, you talk about
Welcome.
feeling down sometimes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then Michigan is a different beast, because like I was in
Hmm.
Detroit. It's muggy and
Yeah.
gray and no sun
Yeah.
so many days.
Yeah.
And then the sun finally peaks out in like June. And then you get from like June to like mid September. And then it's back gray and muggy and
Yeah.
freezing. So imagine looking at that all day and then being sad and depressed because of school. Like you have to find something to make
You
it
got
light.
to.
And I even tell my classmates that now, like, it's serious. It's not that serious though. Like, find a moment to laugh about
Hmm.
something. Find a moment to just completely step away from all things PT, because you can't be consumed by your degree or what your job is, because that's not the entire entity of
Right.
you. So if that's the only thing that you have that defines you, if for whatever reason there's ever a point where you don't have that, you'll be lost.
Right.
So you have to keep yourself grounded with other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding that why is really important, in the midst of, all these changes, even, I mean, moving here, and then you got all the stuff happening in the world and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I definitely agree. And that's something that, I think sometimes people watch people in these positions, like medical school, PT school, whatever, are doing something successful. And, there's a temptation to think that they've got it together and they don't still experience,
Oh no.
certain things. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you are very religious or not, but it is funny, some things about the Bible. It does say, and sometimes I have to remind myself this. It's like, you're transformed by the renewing, of your mind. And it's one of these things where if you don't, put stuff in. I remember when I was at Hampton, one of the things I said, I do remember though, is I was reading a lot. I was reading a lot, even if it was 5 pages a day, because I was studying a lot too.
Same.
And I
Same.
just
Took me forever to finish a book.
yeah, and I remember the mindset, like my mindset, I just felt like it was a lot sharper, like my perspective was a lot fresher, it was a lot better.
Hmm.
Because I remember at that time I was so intentional, I was so obsessed with this, self development and stuff like that. And when you get away from that, a lot of times people think it's like if you don't take a shower in a couple hours, if not, I mean, a couple days at the most, if you don't sweat or anything, you're going to start to notice it, right? But, a lot of us
Yeah.
go through life a lot of the times, we'll take showers, we'll keep all the maintenance up, we'll work out, we'll, do all the stuff that's external. But when it comes to that inner work,
But we don't do the internal.
yeah,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
very easy to let that go by the wayside because it's not something that's very easily seen. You don't see, your
You don't
mentals.
see dysfunction. Yeah. You don't see what's going on
Yeah,
internally.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And that's one thing about this platform. I'm trying to find a way, outside of course, this is a niche, PT school. My life is consumed by it. Your life is consumed by it. And when I say consumed, we're saying most of the time is allotted to,
It's
yeah,
dedicated.
like
Right.
PT stuff. But that level of renewing, I know I need to get back to that. And even I'm just in full transparency, even starting these interviews again, these conversations, and then doing school, it's like, man, sometimes I'm just like, I don't really feel like doing it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who knows, someone might pop on and
Might watch one of
right,
them.
and
Yep.
I
Or
right,
yeah.
and it could, it could change, their perspective about something. So that's where you start shifting from, the self and the me and how I feel to that more extrinsic. With you, it might be your family, it might be your classmates, it might be, people around your immediate community. And me, with me, it might be people on the internet, who knows, or even people in my immediate community as well. So I'm glad you said that, because that is one of those things, even for me myself, um being in the position I am, I still have to constantly refresh that in my mind.
Yeah. Get on yourself. Yeah. It's so easy to get lazy, especially in um, situations like this with where the goal is so long
Hmm.
term, and you have to, like, they tell you like once you get in, like, you've done it, like, and it's like, yeah, but no, because now I have to finish it.
Yeah.
And the slightest slip up and
Hmm.
they're like, oh, you're incompetent, you're
Right.
incapable, we don't think it's for you. So it's like you have a you're walking around with a mountain of stress on you from the day you get the acceptance, because it's like, I don't, there's no room for error, I cannot mess up. And it's like, everyone is human, you're going to mess up,
Right. Right.
but understand that there is a margin for the mistake. So don't feel like you can just go off the rails with it, but give yourself some grace, because thinking that you're going to cross every T and dot every I, you'll set yourself up for failure, and you'll fizzle out before you get to the clinic. And I'm just saying, in the sense of, you know, being able to go to your clinicals. If you're not able to keep up with the didactic, and it might not be because you don't have it and you're not smart enough. It could simply be because you're so worn internally that you studying is not crossing over and correlating to class and application. So you have to take care of, like you said, that, because that's what's going to see you through from
My life would be so
and from graduation to passing your licensure exam. So you have to have that outlet. You have to do the work. Like you said, there's days that you don't feel like it, and that's okay as well. Like you cannot feel like it, and just know that. So this is the day I'm not gonna do 100%. But tomorrow I got to get back on the ball, and it's back to 100% because we can't have too many days where I don't feel like it.
Right.
But you can have some.
Right. Yeah. You
But
can.
this was great. I enjoyed this.
Yes.
Um, Thank you for having me.
Yes. Yes. I appreciate it. And I'll give you the last words before we end this and wrap this up.
So, like I said before, I'm Tiara Cates. I'm a first year at Governor State. Anybody that is thinking about going to PT school, currently in PT school, understand that it is a community, there is a network. Use your resources, find people to connect with, even if it's not in your cohort or if you're not in a cohort yet. There are people out here that want to help you, will help you. Make those connections and then do